afternoon. It's my privilege again today to pinch hit for Murray Stewart. And with us, a very prominent guest, Dr. Martin Luther King of Atlanta, Georgia, a gentleman who came into prominence about 6 years ago with a sit-down strike or a passive resistance to bus segregation in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. First of all, Dr. King, let me welcome you to Sioux Falls, and would you tell us the purpose of your visit?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm here to make a speech for the Knife and Fork Club. And it's certainly a real pleasure to be in this section of the country. It's my first time here.
Well, Doctor, we're delighted to have you. I'm certain that all clear-thinking Americans have learned to respect you highly because of the stand that you have taken and the movement that you have led for passive resistance in the South in this segregation integration problem. Let's go back in a little history, though, if we might, and talk about the bus strike. I think I'm using wrong terminology there, but how did this all come about in Montgomery in 1955?
Well, to put it in brief terms, on the 1st of December 1955, one of the very prominent Negro citizens, Mrs. Rosa Parks, was arrested on a bus because she refused to give up her seat for a boarding male white passenger. The bus driver asked her to move, and it would have meant that she would have gone to the back and she would have had to stand. And in a very quiet and dignified manner, so characteristic of her personality, she refused to move. And as a result of her refusal to move, she was arrested. This word immediately got around the Negro community, and the next morning several of us talked about it and felt that we should have a meeting that night and discuss the possibility of boycotting the buses, protesting the indignities and the injustices which Negro citizens confronted in general, and the particular indignity that had come to Mrs. Rosa Parks. We did meet that Friday evening at my church in Montgomery, and civic leaders and ministers of all denominations agreed that we should boycott the buses, so that we suggested that Monday, December the 5th, would be the day that we would stay off the buses in protest of this grave injustice which had pervaded our community. And Monday came and the buses were empty, and of course we had a big mass meeting that evening, and everybody agreed that we should stay off of the buses until the system was changed, that is, the seating system, because Negro passengers in many instances had to stand over empty seats because there was a custom that the first 10 seats had to be reserved for whites only. And we insisted that we would not return to the buses until the seating pattern was changed and until more courtesy came from the bus drivers themselves.
Doctor, how long did this protest strike against the bus company, not the company specifically, but against the law under which the companies operated their buses, how long did this last?
This lasted 381 days, actually. It started out, as I said, on the 5th of December and went through about the 21st of December in 1956. And of course, at that time, we returned to the buses on an integrated basis. The buses were integrated from that moment, and now they are thoroughly integrated, and Negro passengers can sit anywhere that they can find a seat on the buses.
Have there been any incidents since the buses have been integrated?
Very few. In the first few days, we had some incidents, but they were very small and minor incidents. On the whole, everything took place, or the transition took place in a very smooth and peaceful manner. And since that time, things have moved extraordinarily well.
Doctor, has this integrated bus system been carried out all over Alabama, or is it still exclusively in Montgomery?
It's still mainly Montgomery, maybe Mobile, Alabama. I think Mobile did follow Montgomery, but on the whole, buses are still segregated in other Alabama cities, and even in Birmingham, which is the largest city in the state. There is still an attempt to enforce bus segregation, and of course in the smaller communities, it's still, segregation is still a reality on the buses.
Doctor, after you gained national prominence because of the Montgomery bus situation, within a few years you were gone from Montgomery and have moved to Atlanta. Would you tell us why?
Yes, well, I am the president of an organization which came into being in 1957 called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is really an organization serving to coordinate the protest activities of various groups in the South and to bring together all of the leaders in a way that mutual planning and mutual strategy will be a reality. Now, after this organization came into being, the members of the board constantly urged me to give more time to the whole Southern struggle rather than confining myself to Montgomery. They felt that the Montgomery experiment was something that needed to be followed in communities all over the South. And they urged me to come and give more time to the organization. Of course, our headquarters happens to be in Atlanta, and after giving this matter serious consideration, I came to the conclusion that Atlanta would serve as a better base, and being more centrally located and with more flexible transportation, it would be much better in having to travel so much and getting the message and the movement across the whole South. So that after living in Montgomery about 5 years, I came to the conclusion that Atlanta would furnish a better base and a more centrally located situation where I could assist in carrying out the various nonviolent campaigns over the whole South.
Doctor, you said nonviolent, and this, of course, brings to mind the very obvious conclusion that your passive resistance, your operation of nonviolence, parallels that of Mahatma Gandhi in India some years back. Are you a student of Gandhi and his methods?
Yes, I have been greatly influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. I am convinced that the whole nonviolent approach, the nonviolent resistance approach, is the most potent weapon available to oppressed people in their struggle for freedom and human dignity. I came to this conclusion after a pretty thorough study of the Gandhian technique and philosophy in my theological days, in the days of my studies in theological seminary. And after going to Montgomery and living in the situation where the nonviolent approach was used and where the Negro community came to see the power of this approach, it convinced me even more that it was the type of method and the type of philosophy that should be the guiding principle in our struggle. And then, of course, about 2 years ago, I had the privilege of going to India and talking with many of the Gandhian disciples, those who had worked very closely with him in the independent struggle. And there again, I came to see the power of this method, and I'm convinced more than ever before that as we delve into the struggle for freedom and first-class citizenship, we must delve deeper into the philosophy and method of nonviolence.
Doctor, is it not true that in all the incidents that have occurred in the South since the Supreme Court decision of, 1954?
Yes, 1954.
All of these have been instigated, promulgated by the whites. I know as a newsman of no single incident which a group of Negroes or an individual Negro started.
Well, I think you're right. By and large, the acts of violence have been started by reactionaries in the white South. I think the Negro protesters, when they have stood up for their rights, have done it with amazing discipline and amazing dignity. There have been some few cases of retaliatory violence on the part of Negroes, but that has been very, very small. On the whole,
It's hard to understand why there aren't more, actually.
yes.
Dr. King, I hate to interrupt you, but as usually happens on these shows, you run out of time before we run out of questions. But Georgia, the University of Georgia at Athens, has certainly been in the news the past few days, where 2 Negro students were integrated, and then there was an incident, if you recall, after the Georgia Tech University game. Would you care to comment on the Georgia situation and how it looks to you from South Dakota?
Well, I think on the one hand we see a very hopeful situation, and then on the other hand we see some tragic developments. It's hopeful in the sense that we do have 2 Negro students with the right to go to the University of Georgia, and this came into being through federal court decisions, and I'm convinced that they will ultimately be there, and they will be there permanently. Now, of course, the violence last evening was a very unfortunate thing, and I think it reveals something that we see in so many cases in the South, that the constant prediction of violence by public officials is an unconscious invitation to it. And these violent forces and mob groups never function unless they feel that they have the aid and the support of law enforcement agencies. So I think now the public officials must make it clear that violence will not exist, and I think this will clear the atmosphere for a peaceful transition.
Dr. King, we've completely run out of time, and I'd certainly like to thank you very much for paying us this high honor of visiting with us in our KELOLAND studios. May we wish you and your campaign for right and justice a lot of luck.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This is Doug Hill, pinch hitting for Murray Stewart. This afternoon we've had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Martin Luther King, a man of peace, waging a war for justice in the South. Good afternoon.